Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from John Simpson. And John Simpson has a question about the soul, just a small one. And he starts by saying that he's heard it argued that the soul is a fictitious concept, that it does not in fact exist. And he would like my take on this. He then goes on to ask if I believe that the soul lives eternally, and then where I believe the soul exists, and is it possible that it could exist within dark matter? So to answer this, starting from the beginning, yes, I do believe in the soul, and I've talked about this on the vlog many times, and I've also talked about the idea that the reason I believe this is not simply that I was taught this idea, and not simply that I decided I liked this idea, but based on my personal experiences in working in metaphysics. I believe that the soul exists and that it continues beyond this physical life based upon my experiences working with spirits and spirit messaging, working with past life issues, both for myself and for other people, and so forth. I have seen this demonstrated to me, and therefore I believe it. I would like to think that if my experiences had not confirmed my pre-existing belief system, that I might have changed my belief system. But since they did confirm it, I tend to feel it very strongly. But I would say again, I don't take it on faith. I'm basing it on my experiences. And that's a hard thing to argue about with oneself. Other people may doubt one's experiences, but the person who has experienced them finds that much harder to do. So yes, I believe in the soul, and this is why I believe in the soul. And do I believe that the soul lives eternally? Well, yes, I do. I believe that the soul always exists within deity in the same way that every life that we live always exists within the soul, even though deity is part of many souls and each soul is part of many lives. But I believe that all of those experiences continue to exist perpetually at some level and to some extent. How much depends on how important they are to the soul and to deity. But I do believe that they do not simply cease because the soul goes on to other lifetimes or because deity has an existence within many souls. Having said that, I believe that the soul comes from deity and is always part of deity, that it manifests through the monads, which might be described as soul groups, and that there are millions and millions and millions and millions of them, and that as they develop, they also branch off in many different directions. So my ideas about the soul are not particularly simple, but I believe them very strongly. And I believe that in discussing the soul, I look at it very much the way that I look at deity, which is to say that there are millions of deities which are suited to every need of those who are living in the physical world. And some people will respond to one more than another. Some people will find some to be more accessible than others. And all of those different deities are there to be worked with. But at the same time, I believe that there is only one deity in the end, which is existence itself and the soul of existence, and that that aspect of deity is present in everything. And my attitude toward the soul is very much the same. I believe there are millions and millions of souls which ultimately resolve down into just a small number of monads, and in the end are identical with deity, in that in the end deity is the soul in the sense of being the inner nature of all things, which to me is the meaning of the maxim, as above, so below. The Creator is in anything created and cannot be otherwise. So these would be my ideas about the soul as such, and I think it depends entirely upon the aspect from which you are looking at it, how you would interact with it, and the same with deity. If you are choosing to look at it from a very individuated way, you will find it has a very individuated existence. If you are choosing to look at it from a very unified position, you will find a unified existence, and both of these are true simultaneously. They are not mutually exclusive, they are a matter of the aspect from which you are accessing the whole. And I would compare it in some ways to a string of Christmas lights, which has many different lights, which are individual, but it's still one string of lights and one energy coursing through that string which makes them work. And you can choose to look at the red light as being just a single red light. You can look at the blue light as a single blue light. You can observe that certain lights may not be functioning as well as others. And these are certainly all true. And you can also observe that it's one electricity that's lighting all of them. And these things are not in any way mutually exclusive, and this is how I look at both the soul and deity. Having said that, where is the soul resident? Where is it at? The traditional point of view, the point of view that I would espouse, is that this physical world that we are in is not all that there is. What we perceive is only a part of that whole. And traditionally people have thought in terms of ether or spirit or energy or quintessence or any of 1,000 other words they've used to describe it, which underlie the physical universe that we see, and which all aspects of the physical universe, both seen and unseen, and of the spiritual universe are composed. So I would say that the soul is present in energy in an energetic form, as opposed to a physical location. Now, having said that, could that be considered dark matter? Well, I don't know that the term dark matter is used in such a precise manner that I would be willing to say yes, but I certainly would say maybe. And it's very fashionable at this moment for people to speculate that the soul resides in dark matter. And dark matter, as currently described, certainly does sound like spiritual energy, to use the term that I would use, or like ether or quintessence or whatever other term you would want to use. And these are very ancient ideas, which are also very current. So could it be that the soul resides in dark matter? Absolutely. But I would not say absolutely yes until more can be said about the definition of dark matter. But do I believe that the soul exists? And where do I believe it exists? Yes, I do, and I believe that it exists energetically, as opposed to in a solid physical state of any sort. And does the soul exist eternally? Well, I would say yes. Within the monad and within deity, I would say that some aspect of every soul always continues to exist, just as some aspect of every experience we have in our physical lives always remains within us, even though we're not always highly cognizant of it. And I would say that the strength of that existence of the soul in eternity is largely determined by the importance of its experiences to deity, but ultimately I would say yes. However, I would also say that eternity and the now moment are ultimately the same thing, and that time is an illusion. And so exactly what eternity is, I think, is somewhat beyond our actual understanding. So those would be my thoughts. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. Please join me for our Correllian Peace Prayer. I pray for peace. I pray for love. I pray for stability. I pray for the nation where I live. I pray for the world.